So welcome to the Navirum podcast. Today I'm joined by Sonny Wadera from Kelson Financial. Sonny is a senior advisor at Kelson. And today we're going to be diving into his career background, future of wealth management, where the industry is going. So just to get things started, I'm just going to hand over to Sonny just to give a brief intro of who he is and what he does, and we'll take things from there.
Hey, Rory, thanks for the intro. It's a pleasure to be on the call with you and on this podcast. Thank you and your team at Navirum for putting this together. A little bit of background. I've been doing this for about 30 years. I got into the business. It was an interesting story. My late father was diagnosed with a rare brain disease. And, unfortunately he fell ill, died a few years after that. And he left behind my mother, who 46 years old, never worked in this country, and 2 kids finishing university. My dad had done a lot of good things. He had a will, had disability policy, had all his documents in order, but it still left a big void of what to do and how to plan for that. I think the motivation for me was I wanted to make sure other families weren't in the situation that my mom was in and my sister and I were in. And so this need to help people through navigating the financial decisions that families need to make. I think what motivated me and got me really into this business to make sure that, apart from checking all the boxes of, wills, insurance, power of attorneys, disability, all that, I also want to make sure that there was a game plan. Like, what is the plan? How do you navigate that? How do you manage money? Is your family and your loved ones going to be okay? So that was the real, I think, essence of why I got into the business. 30 years later, and happy to say, my mom's doing phenomenally well. We have more money today. She has more money today than we did when my father left her. And along the way, we made mistakes. Fortunately, they weren't catastrophic. And today, we're helping families all across the country deal with what I call at times the burden of wealth, passing money on from one generation to another generation, preserving money, passing on a legacy, making sure their loved ones are taken care of. That was my story.
What the complexity of it is extraordinary. I don't know how people get by without help, because it is far more complex than people realize. I think managing your financial affairs, it's not taught in schools, it's not taught in universities. You're probably only going to know about it if your dad passed it down to you. Personal story: my father was in the civil service in Ireland, and he had a that. It was always guaranteed. You didn't have to worry about putting money away because he had this thing. And a lot of kids with family members like that, it's a similar thing. So it's not taught, so, and I know you're really passionate about it, but I think, do you have any thoughts on that, any views on that? Is it getting easier? Is it getting harder?
We talk about risk management quite a lot with clients, and people think about risk management just as volatility in the markets, and I think risk management goes way beyond that. Risk management is, markets, taxes, longevity, behavioral risk, misinformation, DIY fatigue. I think there's so much that as advisors we do and we bring to the table that coaching is becoming more of what we do. And I think the lack of real life application in schools is a challenge because, we now wear the hat of part-time planner, part-time coach, part-time operator, part-time investment manager. There's a whole array of services. But I think what we're trying to solve for people is clarity, right? Yeah. And just giving them clarity and to help them break out that noise that's out there and simplify. And, Ali at Sidor did a phenomenal job with his tool. And I think that's where it starts of creating simplicity for families. And we're challenged with that every day to try to help them decipher that, because there's no one situation that's identical.
I think there's so many products in terms of insurance, financial planning. You mentioned tax and stuff like that. The audience is going to be a mixture of people in the same industry and insurance, banking. So there's far more to it than people realize. It's not just investing and saving for your pension. It's about other considerations. Everybody's slightly different. I think that's the thing, in terms of the wealth and private wealth industry, is that you have to cut the cloth to measure for the individual what's going to work for them, their family and their kids and what they want to achieve. So you have to provide solutions. So it's not just an app on a phone that you jump onto and plug in some stuff. It's far more complicated than that. In many cases.
I tell my team, our clients or prospects are going to share with us the most intimate details of their lives.
Right.
How much they make, how much they owe, how they want their loved ones to get assets they own. I mean, they're sharing with us more than they will share their brothers, their sisters, their best friends. They will confide in us. Comes with a privilege and comes with a great responsibility. And you want to make sure that you're helping these families. It's not getting easier because people's situations are getting more and more complex, and especially with this wealth transfer that's occurring.
Yeah.
Conversations I never had 20 years ago. Now it's, how will we be passing on the wealth? You've accumulated the wealth. You have more money than you're ever going to spend. How do you now pass this on to the next generation?
And people's lives, they have life events throughout their lives as well. Their circumstances are changing all the time. So it's not like a set it and forget it sort of thing. Parents pass away, they get married, their kids grow up, they decide they want to go to college, they change careers, they sell a business. It's constantly evolving. And so is the economic environment as well. So interest rates are changing and opportunities are presenting themselves, with tax benefits and stuff like that as well. So they move from different investment houses one to the next, they transfer over. There's a lot of hidden complexity, as I said before. You have to sort of deal with everybody individually.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And I think people are expecting it. You could put processes in the business. You want to put those processes in the business. So you're running it. You're
yeah,
not looking at it as a book of clients. You're running it as a business. Those are just processes, whether it's your fact find, whether it's how you're gathering information from the client. But the actual implementation needs to be personalized. The actual implementation, the actual dialogue, the actual touch points. That's what people want from you. But I think you can streamline the process of doing all the operational tasks. And that's where you want to be leveraging technology to help you do that.
then you
Look,
probably you can do it for free, like so
I think it comes with that responsibility. It's just evolved over time now. The clients trust us,
yeah,
and to give them advice on their finances, their money, but also, we have experience with all of our other clients. One
yeah,
client's getting married and their son is getting married, and you may want to have a conversation with another client that their child's getting married, saying, "Hey, have they thought about a marriage contract? Does that affect the business?"
yeah,
Right? Like there's so many elements that they rely on us as their financial advisor, as their insurance advisor, as their financial planners that
yeah,
we have on our team here. But they're also relying on us for just help me navigate this. I mean, this is all new to me.
yeah,
How do I navigate this? How do I pass on the wealth, making sure it stays within my bloodline or it stays within my family? I've never had these conversations before. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
fascinating. And it's also interesting to hear how people feel about money, what it means to them. I ask people sometimes, why do you save? Why do you save? Well, I want to do this in the future. I want to do this in the future. I said, you're saving for future consumption.
yeah.
You're saving today so you could consume in the future, right?
Uh-huh.
And what does that look like? Walk me through that. Walk me through. Are you going to be helping your children? Are you not helping your children? How do you feel about that? Some people come in and they say, well, listen, I started with nothing. My parents gave me, and whatever my kids get, they get. And then you have people on the extreme side who say, I want to make sure, a legacy is vastly important to me, Sonny. I want
Uh-huh.
to make sure I can help charity. I want to so it's just this big array, and you got to just listen and ask questions. And that's the power of what we do. We're in a privilege that we could ask these questions. They're giving us that platform to
Yeah.
ask the questions that are going to be help them shape their future.
And the more questions you ask, the more you find out about them. And probably these are questions that have never been asked before. Like so you have to make them feel comfortable in the situation. Probably maybe money was never even discussed around the kitchen table, or
Absolutely.
you're trying to coach them into this, help them break out of their comfort zone, I guess. And
And I think we're seeing the landscape change drastically because now people go into their chat, AI tool and start asking it questions. And yet they're not probably prompting it with all the information that the chat may need to know, where we know all the information, right? We know the history. We know what's gone on. We know what their will says. We know what their mandate is. We know whether they have a marriage contract or they don't. We know the relationship with their kids. We know that, oh my God, you have a child that's living in the States. It's a non-resident issue. We know all that information. We have clients going to AI and said, oh my God, my AI told me this. And I'm like, okay, but did you tell it this? Does it know this? Does it know that? And then you're like, okay, I understand. The idea is like technology, I don't think is going to replace human advice. It's probably
uh,
going to just
uh,
amplify it.
yeah,
For us, it's automate the work, elevate the conversation, have deeper conversations with your clients,
Yeah.
but use the technology to help us make our lives simple on the back end of what we do.
I think if anything can help you have more quality time with your clients and, free up time to ask them in AI is that they're always going to want to give you a positive response. They're not going to tell you the stuff you don't want to hear, like
Right.
by default anyway. I mean, you can change them, but they're always going to want to be more like a kind of more of a nearly sales orientated in terms of the way they work. I think we're still a long way from taking over or anything like that. I know you're passionate about using technology to improve the client experience.
There is a place for those tools, and I think I'm glad they have come into the marketplace. We use an evidence-based investment strategy. It's rooted in academia. And one of the principles is keep your costs low. And these whether it's the Quest Trade, the Wealth Simples of the world, the robo advisors, they are bringing down the cost for the consumer on investment management.
Yeah.
Right? That's great for Canadians, just because, an industry that's heavily dominated by the banks and where they have high fees on investment products. It's nice to see that there is a trend lower. So now the differentiator comes on client experience. When we meet clients or we engage in clients, say, we believe in that same evidence-based investment philosophy, build low cost, investment solutions, believe in markets, but where we add value, right, is on the planning, on the coaching. That's where we add value, on the tax, on making sure that you have the appropriate insurance in places, making sure we're guiding you on when you should convert from an RSP to a RIF, whether you take money out of the left pocket first or the right pocket first. Are you doing proper income splitting? Like all of these things, you need a human to help you do that, because someone who understands your situation. People want to delegate. There's a big element of people wanting to delegate that responsibility. And we're seeing that more and more, that people come to a point where they come and say, I don't know, and I don't know how to do this, or I don't want to do this anymore. I think I need help, right? And at one point, they were doing it on their own. They had success, and sometimes that success, I don't know if it was investment success, could have been skill or whether it was actual luck. But they come to you and they say, like, I think I need help. And what could you do to help me? Then it's like, okay, well, let's get everything in order for you. Let's make your will is up to date. Make sure your insurance is up to date. Make sure everyone knows where all your documents are. Let's kind of, the analogy I use is, you don't come to us for a prescription. You're coming to me as a GP. And when you go see a doctor, he's going to basically say, I need to take a blood test, MRI, chest x-ray. I need to understand your vitals.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be able to give you a prescription of what you need.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge is most people go to the pharmacy right away, say, hey, I need a prescription, where they probably should be going to see the doctor first to find out what they actually, the prescription they're going to need. And I think if you've implemented processes using technology, using the tools, that we're building, using the tools that Ali's building, that helps elevate the client experience. And then they could say, okay, like, these guys have thought of everything, right? Yeah. They have a process. They've thought about all the things that I've always thought about, but I didn't know how to move forward on it. They're doing that for me. That's the delegation part.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it is, and delegation, maybe helping them make decisions as well, evidence-backed decisions. It is very personal, and you have to get to know the full, breadth of of a person's affairs to dive into that and give them some good advice. So it is like a bit like a health check that you have to go and do first before you can get in and give a diagnosis in terms of what you recommend to your.
Right, I think, what it is there, when I look at the tools and I look at, the articles that you put out, your blogs that talk about, the tools that we have and what they could do. And I'm thinking, well, how could we take that and give, a better client experience? How could the client walk away with what we've done for them and then talk about us, right? Like, and then say, like, yeah, but the team at Kelson's doing this for us. The team at Kelson, they take care of this for me, right? Like, and that's just going to morph into something great. I think, from my history of having clarity on one's financial picture is really rewarding for the client. Knowing that their documents are organized, that they're in a secure portal, that they have access to it, their loved ones have access to it, they kind of feel like I've taken care of my responsibility to make sure my family's taken care of. And we're there to help them do that and achieve that. You want that relationship with that client who looks at you as a key partner in their financial being to help them. Like I tell the clients, like, you guys do the majority of the heavy lifting. I can't curve your spending. You have to do that. You have to make the decisions on saving. I can't do that for you. I could, but the heavy lifting comes from them.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's at the end of the day, you have to go through all this, and often people they're working with their spouses or family members or elderly parents. Like, there's a lot of input they need to do this, so there's a lot of legwork. Like, I haven't gone through this process myself. There's a lot of legwork involved and a lot of documentations, a lot of paper.
Tremendous. I think, Roy, the future, when I think about the future,
Uh-huh.
about our industry with all these tools and AI and these everything that's available, I'm like so optimistic that I
Yeah,
think people are craving an experience. People are craving, and that experience comes from people having your back. It comes from having good touch points. It's having coaching. Clients expect from us is discipline. They want to know that we're rock solid when it comes to what we believe in,
yeah,
and we take ownership, right? We're accountable, and they pay us for that. And they like to know that we're there. Leveraging technology is just reinforces the fact that we're not stagnant and we're adapting with the times, and we're trying to control the things we could control. As markets are unpredictable, we try not to spend way too much time on things we can't control.
yeah. This past couple of years, I think there's been quite a bit of change in the industry. What appears to be anyway consolidation in the market in Canada. Rise of technology. Some dealers that are being proactive about this. They're investing in their advisor network, and they're bringing out new technology. Do you have any thoughts on where the industry is going in terms of the market and what
Sure.
it look like the next 4 or 5 years?
We made a bold move 2 years ago by moving platforms from one investment dealer to another investment dealer. And some of that motivation came from key leadership that we met with that said, like, we need to give our advisor base access to more data, access to more tools. Innovation is what they're expecting from us. They need to give us a tech deck or
Yeah,
a tech stack that's leading edge. They need to be, okay, you need an API, we'll build you an API so you could take the data, you could get better at workflow integration. These are things that I think the industry or the investment dealers are recognizing that advisors are wanting.
yeah,
And the advisors that embrace this and say, okay, like, now I have the data. How do I make this data more intelligent? How can I make this how can I leverage the technology to make sure my onboarding is a good experience for my client? With cybersecurity, how are we transferring documents back and forth? Like, we weren't having those conversations 15 years ago. I
yeah.
wasn't having conversations about, hey, send me your T1 general, and people would just flip you a fax or an email, or like that doesn't exist now. So the industry is changing. Security is more top, top of the list of priorities from a standpoint of how we're working with clients. The investment dealers are recognizing that we have to make sure we're investing along with our advisors to make sure that they're elevating their businesses, and we have to make sure that we have a tech deck that allows them to do so. And we're seeing that. You're seeing more consolidation, and a lot of it's on the technology front. And, you see the investment executive, report card they give out investment dealers. Investment dealers are spending heavily on infrastructure, on technology, on back office, on custodials, and they need to.
It's I think even the vocabulary that like a lot of advisors are using now, like it's like they're talking about APIs and sprints and user stories. Like, they're becoming technology companies themselves nearly, like, as part of this. Well, the ones that are adapting are, I wouldn't say everybody is. I worked in banking pretty much my whole career, but like back in the day, I used to work with Merrill Lynch, and we used to face off to hedge funds all over the world. But they're like mini software companies themselves. Now in the advisor network, we're seeing that technology influence rise, which
For
is really
sure.
good, I think, for your clients, and really good for your staff and everybody, because the gap in the knowledge is closing. I think the more you know, the better you can do. Like, what we always see is companies that have a technology capability can do more with it. Like, becomes more amplified. But those who don't know about it or deny
Sure.
can't.
I think that word is agile, right? Like, you need to be agile. And
Yeah,
And as the tools I was using 5 years ago, I'm not using now. We've gone from one financial planning tool to another financial planning tool. At one point, we were using emails to communicate with one another. Now we're using Teams, and we may use Slack, and there might be other tools. And we didn't have Copilot. Embracing these tools, you kind of have to, because you need to start becoming how do I scale my business? And if we could scale the operation side and focus more on the client experience and focus on being engaging with our clients and having the time to sit down with them and have meaningful conversations, that's where we're going to grow our business.
Sonny, on LinkedIn, I've seen some of your, posts about like leadership and personal development. Do you have any like philosophies around that, like in terms of, leadership philosophies, building a team? Um,
We have a team culture here. We want to make sure that every team member gets to meet the clients, get to introduce to the clients, touches with the client. I think the clients need to know there's continuity. My team sees my intensity and my constant thrive around the client experience and the way we respond to a client, the way we answer the phone, the way we type an email, and the way we're saying, hey, we don't have an answer now, but as soon as we do, we'll let you know, instead of waiting for the answer. So the client's kind of sitting around. The expectation for clients is so high now. It starts at the top to make sure you lay the foundation of where's the bar. I think we have to transition from running a practice to a business. This is not just a book of clients I have. I have a business. And when you start running it like a business and looking at, KPI measurements, and we're asking ourselves, like, what are the KPIs? Is it that we nailed the financial plan? We didn't go 3 times back and forth with the client to present them their financial plan. Did we nail it the first time? Did we nail it the second time? How was our onboarding experience? How many times did we go? Like, these are certain measurements that we're looking at to say, like, are we making it heavy for the client to work with us? Right. And I think that starts with the leadership, to making sure that you lay out for your team a standard. And I look at the hospitality business, whether it's Four Seasons Hotel or a Michelin star restaurant, it starts at the top of what type of client experience they're going to get when they walk through that door. How are they greeted? What's the smell like? How's their thank you? What's it like when they leave? What's the follow-up? And I think that comes from the top, to making sure that they realize that. And if the team buys into that culture, then it's easy for them to try to implement it, and then they start doing it naturally. And being open to feedback. Like when we work as a team, we do these exercises where, hey, what really, here's what I think you did really well in that meeting. And then it's, here's what I would have done differently. So you want to give the positive feedback of what they did really well. And then you want to give them some feedback of what you think they could have improved on. And I have to be open to that too, right? And it goes 2 ways. So we walk out of a meeting and like, hey, let's do this. Like, tell me what you thought I did really well. What do you think I could have improved on? Okay, great. Let's move on, right? And I think we're have that mindset of how can we constantly be improving, and I have to be open to that if they come to me with ideas on, hey, what if we change this, or what if we don't do this anymore and we do this instead, right? I can't be too set in our ways. And you have to be ready to embrace change. Change is just inevitable, right? Like, it's just going to happen. And you have to be ready to work with that.
I completely agree. I think the point you mentioned about accepting feedback, I think like if leaders are open to feedback and getting better, it kind of makes it easier for everybody else in the business to do the same.
I think, Roy, one thing that's quite important is the feedback from them after meetings, but I think regular check-ins with them, have them engaged in certain business decisions that affect them. Keep them engaged in the process of everything we're doing. I think that's important. How, whether we're working with you on our sales force to say, hey, what do you think about if we do this? Will this help you? Will this improve your efficiency? What would you like to see? Right? We're gathering information. What would be better for you? Having them involved and having them invested is they have input that they could probably give me, because there's a lot of stuff that I never touch that they do daily, and I can't just make decisions regarding that. So, their feedback is vital for our success.
Yeah, that point is really important, because I think what can happen with a lot of advisors when they start out, they become the center of everything and everything goes through them. They don't learn to let go and sort of hand over the reins to other people and get other people to run the meetings they used to run, and kind of work more laterally with each other, like across the organization. That's the founder's trap. It happens to a lot of people. They can't let go, and then they eventually do, and their life is a lot easier.
Delegation, it's tough. We tend to be a little bit control freaks on things, and then we got to learn to delegate. It's I tell people at the office, like, guys, we're not doing brain surgery. No one's dying today, right? So let's try but keep that in mind when we're implementing. So let's just do really good work and do it with a smile and just remember, like we're impacting people's lives for the positive.
It's being willing to change and shake things up on a regular basis as well, I think is really important. The environment changes, the economy changes, interest rates go up and down, technology evolves. You tried something, it doesn't work. You've always had a willingness to try new things and adapt. You're not sort of stuck saying, no.
I go to these events and conferences, my teams come back and say, no, what new things are we going to have to try? We're going to get bombarded with all of these cool tools that he wants us to check out and do.
Yeah, people notably absent the day you come back from that conference.
Yeah, exactly. Or they're getting bombarded while I'm there.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm probably a bit like that as well. When I go to conferences, I tend to load up on I try to get as much information as I can and come back and sift through it afterwards and really make the most of it. It's not a jolly at the end of the day. So. Um, but
But
what do you do for fun, Sonny, when you're not in work and you seem to be in work like 7 days a week whenever I talk to you? How do you enjoy
you know what? I could tell you, I love learning. So a lot of this stuff is just curiosity about what's coming down the pipeline. So I'm a curious person. So it actually is fun for me, like learning some of this stuff and seeing how we could implement our business, and kind of like a big Rubik's cube. You're always constantly trying to solve a puzzle you're trying to solve. Avid golfer, absolutely love golfing. The winters get harsh, but now that we have a lot of new indoor driving range popping up around us, these simulators, it's great to get out and hit some golf balls in the winter season. But I do think, the technology part, I think it was something that I first found as a necessity, that I needed to have that. And now I think the edge is the technology has to help us, but it doesn't replace the human part of the client experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm always saying, how much more time could I free up to see more people? How much more time could I free up for my team to see more people and talk to more people? But this is all fun. Like we're helping people and impacting their lives is rewarding in itself. And then constantly learning, whether it's reading. I think it's Atomic Habits I'm on right now. Great
Yeah.
book. I'm enjoying it thoroughly. It's just, constantly keeps the brain going and keeps me motivated.
Um, I think even sometimes when you're in the midst of running a business, you can sometimes forget that you need to go back and upgrade your skills on a regular basis, learn new things, go back and relearn things you learned 5 years ago. Even that's, I think that's really important to develop.
We're early adopters of technology, and we're trying to make sure we move away from a practice to a business. This digital transformation we're doing, it's because the advisor of the future, I really believe, is part planner, part coach, part operator. I actually think the investment management part's the easy part. I tell clients, managing the money is easy, managing you is hard. I think the leadership we provide our clients, because they want to delegate that off to us, and the clarity that we're able to provide is what really differentiates us. We want to try to, I tell the team, automate the work and elevate the conversation. Like, if I could have a half-hour conversation with a client about his buy-sell agreement, or about how they're going to fund the buyout with their partner, and they're calling us because they want our input on this, because they think we could add value, and that's what you want. And I don't think AI is going to replace advisors. I think it's going to allow us to embrace it and then outperform the ones who don't know how to implement it into their daily practice and into their daily workflows. The modern practice / business in the advisory is going to be built about building really good systems and elevating the conversations you have with your clients. You have to have a strong back support to be able to leverage that. Things that would have taken 3 weeks to do, you got to be able to do it relatively quickly. You have to be able to onboard a client relatively smoothly. You have to be able to have a great mobile application for them to get access to their accounts. You want to empower clients so they could see their financial plan if they wake up with their spouse, they want to say, hey, let's look at that plan that Kelson Wealth built for us. And they have a portal they could go in and they could look at their retirement goal and see that they're on target. And they could, jot questions down, and the next time they have a conversation with it is more meaningful, right? And that's a great client experience.
Well, you have to be willing to just because expectations change. We've got clients who will email us, or they'll send us checks, or they'll call us. We've got people who will only deal with like SMS or WhatsApp, or like a younger generation. So you have to kind of meet people where they are, and that means you have to kind of just keep evolving the technology and how you deal with people. It's interesting. There's such a spectrum of needs. When I was in the bank years ago, they used to say to us, look, we'll accept communication on any channel from our clients. just let them talk to us, whatever, messenger pigeon, or just go meet them, go meet. That's the way it always was. And I think that part of it will never change,
Prior to this call, I had a client in Toronto. Hey, Sonny, let's jump on a Teams call. I want to discuss something with you. That ability just elevated how many more people I could see in a given day. Now the challenge is, okay, how do you, record the conversation, take your notes on your conversation. That's where you got to be able to leverage this technology so you could be more efficient, and then you could have more impactful conversations. But you got to be able to, we have clients who want to communicate by SMS or messages. I have one client who refuses, he only wants to use WhatsApp. We have one who refuses emails. And then I have old school who people say, I'm coming in to sign everything by paper.
You got to be able to meet people, and you got to be open to new things, and you need to have that sort of beginner's mind the whole time.
Yeah. And one of the things that we try to tell clients, or we try to articulate, is with cybersecurity being front and center with us about your information that's being transmitted. We have these systems, whether it's side drawer, whether it's, other tools that we use to gather client information. How can we make it a great experience for the client? Because I need it. I need their SIN number. I need their driver's license. I need picture ID. I need all that. But how do I make sure that they don't just send it to me in a way that exposes them and exposes myself, right? So these are ongoing conversations we're having. Well, Rory, I could thank you so much.
Sonny, great to have you on today, and thanks for your insights. And if people want to contact you, we'll put your details in the show notes at the end of the session. And if they want to have further conversation or pick things up, and they'll know where to contact. But thanks very much,
Rory. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the platform and all the guidance you keep giving. I have given over the years and keep giving. I appreciate it because we are helping Canadians together. So I'm glad for that. Thank you.